This podcast is sponsored by CDO Group, the industry leader in providing a full range of construction and project management services. CDO Group has managed thousands of projects in all 50 states. Their group of experts provides systems, processes, and procedures to make sure that your projects turn over on time and on budget every single time. With over 24 years of experience, CDO Group is the industry's leader in construction management and general contracting services. To find them, go to cdogroup.com. Hi, and welcome to the Future of Development podcast. My name's Anthony Amunategui, and I'm here to inspire people to find amazing careers in the construction development world. If you like our podcast, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really like our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Hey everybody, welcome to the Future Development Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Amunategui, and today I am joined by the amazing Jack Corns. Jack is with Hausbots. He's a co-founder, and him and his partner have created this robot that climbs walls, paints buildings, does inspections. It's amazing. Let's welcome Jack to the show. Jack, welcome to the show. I'm really excited about having you. You know, your product is something that when first time I saw it, I thought to myself, this is crazy. Robots that climb walls. You know, we're going to get into that. But before I get into that, I think it's more important to find out how an entrepreneur comes up with an idea, right? How did you get started? What was the stuff that inspired little Jack to become an entrepreneur, right? When did that start?
Sure. So I've been really lucky to kind of grow up around that entrepreneurial ecosystem from a very young age. The next thing I'm going to sound is very strange. It's going to sound very strange, but all four of my parents started their own businesses. I'm from a divorced family, so mum, dad, step parents, all of them ran their own business. And so it's really something that it gets ingrained in you from such a young age. My dad, I remember walking around at a tiny age around his factory and seeing the work he was doing and really thinking to myself, you know, I want to be a leader one day like my parents. And so it was kind of a path that was inevitable for me. I started my entrepreneurial journey probably about age 8. I was always selling stuff when I was a kid, selling vegetables from my grandma's house or sweets at school. Or when I was a bit older, I started selling clothes and T-shirts and caps and stuff like that. And it's kind of this thing that it's almost in your blood, you know, it's something that you have in you. And that's something that was waiting to get out for me. So when I reached the age of 18, it was kind of a choice of work or university. I decided to just start working straight away. I got a job at IBM based over in the UK though, and I was working in their sales team. So I got at a really young age a great experience of the business world and particularly sales and people relationships. Great learning experience, but didn't really kind of feed my entrepreneurial fire until one day I was having a chat with a friend from school who I've known for a very long time. And he was telling me about this idea he had for revolutionizing the way that we inspect and maintain these big assets like buildings or bridges or any of these huge man-made things. And he mentioned this climbing robot idea that he'd come up with. And it was kind of a eureka moment for me of, wow, like we can build this thing, there's got to be a need for it. And there isn't, well, at the time and still isn't anything really fulfilling that need in the market. So I kind of took my knowledge I had from, you know, sales and relationship and commercial side, partnered with his technical side. And here we are 3 years later with a fledgling business. We're supplying our first ever robots to customers, fulfilling our first ever contracts. And, you know, before we started, there was no product, and now there's a product. And that's a pretty cool journey to have gone on over the last 3 years.
You know, starting from vegetable salesman at 8, right? as you go through it, I think that's the funny part about it is like every one of those things, you know, looking backwards, the dots kind of make sense, right? You kind of look backwards and go, all right, I learned to get out of myself, and I learned that working together with my friends to go and do this, and then picking vegetables and how to, not being afraid to walk up and talk to a customer. You know, I started my first painting company when I was a kid, but, you know, and walking up to a door and knocking on that first door, your heart beat out of your chest. I just remember the amount of, you know, there was a little bit of fear in that, but then once you kind of popped through that and realized, you know, it wasn't that bad. And then I could go knock on the neighbor's door. And then all of a sudden I got a customer and I go, wow, I'm doing your next door neighbor's house. And, you know, just a little bit of stepping through the fear, right? Having an idea and then stepping through the fear. That's an amazing one. And, you know, your journey to getting to a robot By the way, for those of you who are listening and not watching, I'm going to put a link down below in the comments section where you can go to Jack's website, and it's really cool. This robot that actually climbs walls and it does multiple things. So we'll talk a little bit about each of the things that it does. But the first time I saw it to myself, I'm like, that thing's got to be 40, 50 feet up in the air, climbing up a pole of the highway poles, the ones I was looking at. I thought to myself, you can see this, taking, what was an unsafe job and making it a much safer job than ever before, right? To being able to look at these highway structures that, before had to take some very large cranes or something to do.
Yeah, that's right. That the whole business is built off the idea of how can we make any form of working at height more efficient cost-wise and time-wise, but also massively on the safety factor as well. The single biggest killer in both the UK and the US of work-related killer this is falls from height. It's people at work falling from a height. It's the biggest thing that kills people when they go to the work in both of those countries. So we think robotics is a perfect way for increasing the safety in these areas.
So now Jack, you're talking to your friend, right? And he's got this idea. Now, how do you guys go from you're sitting down, you're talking about this. By the way, where are you at? Where are you at when you're having this conversation?
I think we were at a pub, actually, a great British pub.
Some of the best ideas happen in great British pubs, right? And you look at, sitting down, the two of you are sitting there, you got an idea, are you napping? Are you on a napkin kind of writing this out? Tell me about the idea. So
Harry is my co-founder, that he's kind of the technical guy on the project. He was just running me through what he'd been up to since we left school. It was just started as a friendly chat. And he told me about his parents had this particular challenge with painting their house. And over one holiday period, he was asked by his parents to, get up on a ladder and paint his house. And he was very technical minded, an inventor. Straight away, he thought, well, it's the 21st century. Surely there's got to be a better way of doing this than having to get up there with my paintbrush and ladder. So he actually came up with it as some fun. He was like, yeah, this will be a great project. It's going to be some fun. And he didn't really think anything else of that until we were having this discussion. He told me as a passing comment about this idea. And I don't know, just some sort of, when you hear these great ideas and some kind of light bulb just triggers and you think, well, I know how I've got the bits of this puzzle that he's missing. He's a great technical mind, but I can bring the sales and the funding knowledge and run the business. And it was kind of in the moment, we thought, let's make it happen. We can get into a partnership and do this thing.
That's awesome. And I think that's where great partnerships start, right? You start with a conversation. Boom, you get an idea. Hey, this is you should really do this. I've worked with a lot of creative folks who are, got just genius, and they have a hard time with the rest of the business, right? Creating the structure, looking at the business, getting from an idea to a prototype, getting that first one done. So let's talk about that. Your first. Now you're sitting at the pub, and now you go from this to, all right, we're going to build our first prototype. How does that happen?
Yeah, so luckily Harry had some pieces of equipment in his garage. He was still living at home at the time. He was lucky enough to have been able to afford a small 3D printer, only like a one off Amazon, $100, $200 type thing. But he had a 3D printer. He had some tools at home, hammer, screwdriver, that kind of stuff. And so pretty much the next day we went into his garage and started prototyping things. Especially with robotics, people tend to get scared with how much money these things can cost. But I'll tell you for a fact, including all the materials and the machines we needed to build our first prototype, we spent maybe $500 maximum. So, it's not a huge budget thing, but we knew that we had to get something that at least proved that the physics was legitimate. We could actually get a robot to climb something. And that was our goal, really, was to be working weekends and evenings and any time free I had around my job, which I was still working at the time, to just get something that proved it. And I think our first prototype, we managed to stick it to a wall and it maybe climbed about this far, a couple of inches, but there was a robot stuck to a wall and it climbed a few inches, which is enough to get a little video and, it proved to us more than anything that the physics was real, and we could maybe start building something from there.
And I think that's something that's a great point. The how many people get stopped by, this is going to be too much. There's no way this is going to, we can't afford to do this. This idea is, they get caught up in the minutia of an idea, right? Looking at creating a business, to me, there's always the same formula. It's the exact same formula. Every entrepreneur I meet with, every idea I've ever had, every business I've ever started, all the companies that we have, same exact thing happens. There's an idea, and then there's stepping into the idea and starting to work on it, and then there's a little bit of frustration. Right, because then there's a little bit of win lose, 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 win, lose, lose. There's a little bit of that, and I call that confusion, right? And then I start to organize around it, right? Start to build the systems around it. Go, okay, here's what's working, here's what's not. But that process takes a lot of people out. That next, the first process of stepping into creating it, that takes out most people. And then the next part is those who are really not committed, like, well, they're kind of half into it. They step into it, but they don't do that next step, which is you got to kind of step through, the win and losing of creating the business, right? Because, there's certainly days when you're spending money and you're not monetizing it yet. You've got no return on your investment. You can't even see it, and the bills are piling up, and the landlord's knocking on the door. And the electrical company's going, hey, I need some money. And, at any point, those can scare you out and go, oh, maybe I should go back to working again. And sometimes we do. Sometimes you got to do both. So talk a little bit about that. So as you go through this and you get your first 2-inch, you get the robot to go a couple inches up, go talk through what it took to continue through that.
You're 100% correct. There's something that I hear a lot of in the kind of startup world, which is your idea means nothing, which is so true. The idea is just the very baby bit at the beginning, and then all the work is ahead of you. So we knew that this 2-inch climbing robot thing was cool, but ultimately we had to work out a way of how we were going to pay the bills. And from our perspective, venture capital was pretty much the only path for us. And so we just focused straight away on the things that we knew venture capital investors want to see. So after we had this robot that climbed about 2-inch, we spoke to as many customers as we possibly could. We had photographs of what the finished product was going to look like. We had this 2-inch climbing robot. We had ideas about how much money it could save. We did loads of research into how much they're currently spending on things like scaffolding, and went to customers and said, we can save you this money. And pretty much straight away, we just started focusing on what's the market going to be like and who are the customers, so that we could then build up this bank of proof. We've had 15 customers tell us that we could save them $300,000 a year, and they would be willing to pay this much for the robot. Oh, and by the way, they signed a letter to say that when it's ready, they'll purchase one. So we got all of this kind of bank of information and market research in place, and pretty much straight away started hitting the road for venture capital investors and angel investors. And it took us a long time, but eventually we found 2 great investors that, believed in what we were trying to do. And that was really the start of us at really being able to execute on the product, hire our first members of staff, move into our first office and start building and improving the product, and actually then servicing the customers that we promised back in day one that there would be a real robot one day. That's then how we ended up paying for all of that to happen. So,
I oftentimes call that throwing my keys over the fence. Right. A lot of times you get these ideas, right? And you go out to customers and say, hey, I'm going to have this product. And if I have this product, you're willing to use my product. I was just working with a group of guys that started a bakery concept. And they went out and they said, they went out to the marketplace, and there was kind of a lull in this one market for servicing of bakery products. And they said, they went to all the different places that they would sell to. And they said, look, I think that we could give you a better product, and we could save you some money on this and make it a much more profitable product at the end because of the way we package it, the stuff that we could do to it. If we are able to do that, would you be our customer? And they go and they get a couple hundred of signatures from people. And now they took that to the bank, they literally took that to the bank and they had monetized each signature saying, hey, this would be $10,000 a year worth of product. And now I've got 200 signatures, and they monetize that as a formula to the bank showing, hey, I've got a built-in client. If I can get to the back end of it, I thought to myself, that's genius. Right? They have no proof. They've never even baked a piece of bread yet, and now they're already raising capital for this by getting signatures for potential customers. But now they got to throw their keys over the fence. Right now they throw their keys over the fence. They've gotten the signatures. They've gotten the bank. They've gotten the money. Now they've got to go get them. Right? They got to go get the keys. Right? And that's where you're talking about. Right? Being able to go get them and really start to create the product and work through all the bugs, because even as you grow there, right, you had the one product, but now you got to get the next product, and the customers say, hey, I want this attachment and that attachment. Hey, if it can do this, I can really use it. So now you're starting to make you're taking your idea, and your idea is growing. Right, so it went from painting, your partner's parents' house to now. What are the other ideas that they come up with and people are looking for?
Yeah, so we've branched much more into all types of inspection and maintenance. Really, our robot's clever thing is how it's able to climb any type of surface. So we can climb glass, we can climb brick, we can climb concrete. It doesn't matter. The robot can stick to it and climb on it. It's then got around 6 kilos of available payload, 6 kilograms of available payload, which you can then attach any type of inspection or maintenance equipment. So now we do the whole range of inspecting using cameras, or maybe even inspecting using specialist probes for looking at the integrity of concrete, like in the bridge example that you gave earlier, all the way through to then, applying paint, or even one of our customers, we're running a test project for using the robot in pest control. So the robot will be applying a powder for wasp eradication. Really, we're kind of seeing the robot as a platform, a tool for all types of inspection and maintenance. And you're right, that's then is how the business becomes more complex, is because you have to most of my job is trying to prioritize between our customers pulling us in these directions. We've got to make sure it makes enough money and that we can actually fulfill on it, and just work out what the right direction is for the product to go in. That's kind of the exact stage of our business at the moment, is that we're making money, we're making okay money, but really for the business to sort of ramp up and scale, we have to work out what are those most profitable and most beneficial to the customer. What are those use cases that we can really kind of focus in on is what we're in the process of doing now.
Well, I think that's the next part is that scalable part, right? So you got the idea, you kind of proof the product, and now you've got it available to go. And as a customer base says, hey, I've got these needs, and that will continue to grow and start to make the adaptation. 12 or 6 kilos, that's a little about 12 pounds. That's a pretty big payload that it can carry up. And how high can it go?
It can go unlimited. It's there's two versions. One of them gets powered through a cable. That one can only go up about 30 meters, which is somewhere around 10 stories on the cable, or you can put it on a battery power and it will go unlimited on a battery power, but you only have like 20 minutes of runtime on a battery, so it depends.
So it can run up to do something, knock it out, and come back down. But places where you can't get to them. Now, I think that's the stuff that's kind of neat. As I say it all the time, as new ideas come up, right, the applications for it aren't even known yet, and they start to discover themselves as the product gets refined and continues to push through that. This next section of your growth as a company really starts to challenge you, the entrepreneur, and the developer, your partner, the technical side of it, and then really is the operational side of it, right? The part of it says, all right, now we've got products, because I know that when you and I talked, a lot of the stuff you guys are doing to raise funds is actually doing some of the inspectional work, doing some of the platform work with the robots themselves, and you're out there doing it, and you're not without giving people the robots themselves. You're doing the work with the robots, right?
Yeah. So most of our revenues today come from Hausbots providing a full service. So we turn up to a customer's site, we provide a robot operator, and we basically sell the finished inspection or the finished maintenance job. Yeah.
All right, so let's do a couple things real quick so the audience really gets to know the brand. And by the way, we're going to put all the links down at the bottom. So let's go through the website itself.
Hausbots, spelt the German way. So HAUSBOTS. House. We called it the German to make it sound, efficient and engineering and stuff.
Right. The Germans are the key at the engineering, and you got to sound, you wouldn't have done it the Italian way because they make, Hausbots.
So Hausbots, but you can find us on Google if you just type in wall climbing robot. We're number one on wall climbing robot.
Well, we'll make sure we get a lot of those links down there. Eric, he's over there looking right now. He's typing away right now at hooking the links up, and really get to know the product and the applications for it. And if customers go, hey, I love this idea, I want to use this for X, who do they contact?
Straight to me. So if you go through our website, there's a contact details, and you can contact me. We have a number of attachments like off the shelf and ready to go, the ones that I described earlier, but we can do custom integrations just as easily and run on test projects for almost any idea that you might have for inspection or maintenance that the robot can help with. We can be international as well. Like you can probably tell by my accent that we're based in the UK, but literally this morning we sent a robot off to Singapore. We've got a robot going to Brazil in the next couple of months. So we can be anywhere.
Nice. So as people start to look at high-rise buildings, start looking at taller structures, as they start to really look at places where this application could work for them, they contact you. You can custom build the bot to work on any of the surfaces they've got coming up. What's your timing on putting that together for them?
So we can have a robot made and shipped within a week or so. We can be pretty quick. If we want to do something more custom, then obviously it depends on how complex it is. But one of our existing integrations can be shipped in about a week.
That's amazing. Make sure you guys are listening. Go down to the link. This bot is unbelievable to watch. The first time I saw it, I thought to myself, this is cool. And it's got a paint attachment, a camera attachment, all kinds of sonar, radar type attachments that you can put on this thing, and it really does. You can see a future where people don't need to get up on top of really scary devices to do an inspection, or the timing that it takes. An operator can go up, set the thing up, crawls up the side of a building, does the inspection it needs to do, and then is back down. And the integration, the timing for that was pretty quickly. So I can really, it's exciting new technology, and where you guys are going, entrepreneurs, and as you come up with more ideas, and the customers that you have push you in those places. Would you please come back and tell us more about them? Because I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I tell everybody, you're the F1 of technology, right? You're the you're kind of the F1. By the way, that's the technology you guys use, right? It's really talk about that for a second, because I think I missed out on that just a little bit.
Yeah, so we use a type of technology which is derived from Formula One or most types of racing, called the ground effect. In Formula One, then air is moving very quickly under the car from front to back. And because of that speed in the air, there's a massive low pressure region under the car. That low pressure region is then what creates that downforce or that suction force when the car moves along. We take that exact same principle and add it to our robot. So we can be generating this low pressure force without having to have a suction area. There's no sealed area, there's no vacuum, there's no suction cup. There's quite a big gap underneath the robot, which allows it to climb on all of these varied surfaces. Any surface you can put in front of it and overcome obstacles as well. So it'll overcome nuts and bolts and wires and things like that you might find on the surface, which is the kind of unique thing to it.
That's awesome. Jack, I love where you're going. I love the technology. I look forward to the things things you're doing. And by the way, I'm grateful that you got on the show. I know you're busy, and I had to squeeze in to get here, and I'm grateful for that time. And please make sure that as you get new products, I'd love to have you on again. And I think it's kind of fun to see where you guys are going as a brand.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much, guys, for having me on. It's going to be fun.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony Amunategui, always looking for people to bring insight into the industry, finding ways to inspire people to have amazing careers in the development world. If you liked our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really liked our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Thanks again for listening. Please share it with your friends.